As a result of the disastrous defeat at Red Cliffs, Cao Cao's huge army was scattered around the northern plain above the Yangtze River. Liu Bei and Zhou Yu had set up a garrison near the enemy base at Jiangling, which they left solely under Ling Tong's defence for 10 days. After they lifted the siege at Yiling and returned, the general Gan Ning established a bridgehead to speed up the allies' chaotic crossing of the river. Zhou Yu and Liu Bei then gave chase over land and water towards Jiangling, as the main bulk of the army continued to fight over the limited number of ferries. Cao Cao might have been vanquished entirely if the crossing of the river hadn't dissolved into chaos, but the allies still slowly made their way towards Jiangling to carry out the next step of their strategy, attempting to take control of Nan Commandery. Cao Ren was stationed inside Jiangling, and Xu Huang was sent to help guard it. Yu Jin and his colleague Wen Ping stationed inside Xianyang to act as a countermeasure against Zhou Yu, while Man Chong was in Danyang. The allies' target was Jiangling, but the troops Cao Ren had prior to the battle was at least over half of Zhou Yu's 40,000, if we consider the allies suffered minimal losses during the battle at Qi. Cao Ren received reinforcements from Yi Province, Xianyang, Runan, Xiangsha, Danyang, and a number of other cities, so Zhou Yu became worried about these 120,000 unscathed scattered soldiers. He asked Liu Bei to send Guan Yu around the strong point of Jiangling to infiltrate their supply lines and isolate the city for a coordinated attack. Liu Bei told Zhou Yu, "Cao Ren is defending Jiangling, and he has much supplies in the city. He poses a big threat to us, so I will send Zhang Yai with 1,000 men to accompany you, while you dispatch 2,000 troops to follow me. We'll then cross the Xia River to attack Cao Ren's rear and force him to retreat." In preparation for the siege, the troops gathered, where on the front lines Liu Bei authorized Zhang Fei and Guan Yu to take command of his troops, then suggested to block any new supplies intended for Jiangling, so means to force Cao Ren out. Guan Yu sailed his elite infantry and navy up the Han River, setting blockades up along the main passages with Su Fei. When Guan Yu tried to cut the connection between Jiangling and Xianyang, he was hindered by Yu Jin and Wen Ping, who led their armies out to Shunku and forced him back. Among the blocked northern routes, Li Tong engaged some of the barricades by dismounting, removing them one by one, then valiantly fighting forward. He broke through the defense lines, but eventually succumbed to sickness and passed away, while Xu Huang defeated some enemies around Fancheng, then moved to Danyang. He rendezvoused with Man Chong, then they engaged Guan Yu's men in battle at Han Ford in Hanjin. On the front line, Zhou Yu's men appeared to be suffering lots of losses, but he considered their failures minor compared to Cao Ren's 3,000 elite cavalry that was routed at Yiling a few months earlier. Guan Yu's fleet was finally defeated on the water at Xiaku during his second attempt at blocking the Xianyang waterway. Yu Jin and Wen Ping drove him away for good this time, while the latter went on to launch further raids, destroying Guan's supplies at Han Ford and burning his fleet at Jingcheng. It's likely but not certain that Yu Jin and Wen Ping secured the supply and communication lines back to Jiangling at this time. Xu Huang is the only recorded general to break through the blockades and support Cao Ren's disheartened soldiers. Inside the city, Ren knew that he needed to do something to change the tide of war, so he gathered 300 brave volunteers and formed an elite assault force. Yu Jin was then tasked with leading the unit and demonstrating further on the battlefield and boosting their troops' morale. Zhou Yu's vanguard, several thousand strong, approached the outskirts of the city and challenged Cao Cao's forces. Yu Jin quickly rushed out to do battle, but was heavily outnumbered and became trapped. Unlike what everyone thought, Yu Jin was able to tire the enemy out by creating havoc on the battlefield until he had around 100 men left. Cao Ren experienced a surge of fury and courage from atop the walls, and quickly ordered dozens of his best men to form a rescue party, but Chen Jiao had turned pale and argued, "The enemy morale is still too high, and losing several hundred men is not a big deal to us." Ren ignored this plea and went out anyway, charging directly into the enemy until Chen Jiao lost sight of him. Not only did he rescue Yu Jin on the first attempt, but he also went back to save the remaining survivors. The rest of the men behind the walls were in awe as Chen Jiao witnessed the returning of Yu Jin to safety and could only mutter one sentence, "Ren, you are truly a man from heaven." With rejuvenated spirits, the men encouraged one another, then made camps outside the city walls. Zhou Yu personally led raids on the camps, but was seriously wounded after he was struck by an arrow that broke one of his right ribs. When Cao Ren found out about this, he led his troops to Zhou camp to taunt him, but Shou got up out of bed to encourage his troops. When Cao Ren saw Zhou inspecting his soldiers, he pulled back. With his injury, Zhou delegated over his command, so the battles were now left to Lu Meng, Ling Tong and the others. As the new objective was simply to inflict as much damage to the enemy as possible, the siege became a prolonged one, and both sides sustained heavy casualties. Having returned to his post, Yuan could see their position had worsened, so he rallied his army. They hurried down to Jiangling County, where they won several skirmishes over Liu Bei's men, then forced some barbarians of southern Jing to surrender. He mimicked Guan Yu's infiltration strategy, totally routing the forces of Du Pu and Liang Da, the chiefs of some of Liu Bei's newly acquired territories. Veterans like Han Dang would often encourage the men to fight in a unified spirit. Then after a year of intense fighting, Zhou reappeared on the front line, fully recovered to flaunt in front of Cao Ren and rally the men of Wu. Zhou illustration of determination was merely a trick, however, as he was still in a critical condition. Cao Cao was unwilling to continuously see his materials and labour being depleted, so reluctantly ordered Cao Ren to retreat. With this, Sun Quan's forces finally succeeded in capturing Jiangling, a strategic stronghold that would never be reclaimed by the state of Tao Wei. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.